Hey guys, welcome back. Another episode on the Camel. Still going, getting a lot closer, but we're going to take a few steps backwards before we go forwards. Not sure what I'm going to get up to in this video, but watch along. I'm sure we'll have some fun and we'll learn something along the way. Thanks for watching. Okay, Scott Matthews, Latrobe Valley, Victoria, Australia, building a Sopwith Camel from aerodrome aeroplanes materials kit. We started with a welded fuselage and a box of tubes basically, and you get a bag of hardware, the wheels, some steel parts, a lot of the little tangs and like dumbbell sort of shapes, but a lot of manufacturing yourself and a lot of thinking. But this is where I'm up to so far. I'm starting to think I need something. I've got a book over there, it's got Charlie Chaplin. You sort of cut, well, I would cut it out of metal and paint Charlie Chaplin and make it like a badge as opposed to a decal. Or I could put a big letter on there. I don't want to copy anyone else. Make it my own. You know, do I do an S for Scott or S for Sopwith? Although an S is pretty hard to mask up. However, I haven't let hard work stop me so far, so we'll see how we go. Where am I up to? It's almost time to pull it apart. I think we're just going to play off the aircraft for a bit. I'm going to finish up my throttle quadrant. The last video I made this up. A few comments with edge distances and all that. Yep, appreciate your input, but I'm sort of all over it. These bits poking out the bottom, I don't know, kind of looks cool to me. So I'm just going to round those off. I had to go with some wooden handles. I think I'll do that. I've made the whole thing, so I might as well make the handles. I might do a bit of wood on both sides, and that's sort of the heights that I potentially will trim them down to. Other people have mentioned, you know, mixture on the inside. So I might make the mixture as short as possible to keep it out of the way and just have the throttle up the top. That'll all get painted black once it get a good sand today. So I'll probably paint that today, get some primer on it at least and stain the wood up. My big concern is trying to keep everything in the exact order and orientation. But I'll work something out. Maybe I'll punch a couple of dots on pieces or something because it's going to get painted. Now also the wheels, I know she looks ugly and it annoys me as well. I'm not saying it annoys anyone else. Don't really concern myself with how others feel, to be completely honest. But the undercarriage, the reason I've got it like that, if you look, the only thing holding the wheel on is an Adele clamp, and I've got to keep reminding myself that. I had the hangar doors all open yesterday out flying with the cruiser. I was going to push it out. My hangar actually slopes downhill, which is great, so it would roll out easy. The obvious thing to pull it back in would be the prop, but I've only got 2 zip ties on the prop, and there's not much to hang on to by myself to pull it back in. I was sort of concerned I wouldn't have the muscle power to pull the aircraft back in. But also, with 100 kilos up the front here, being the engine, and the whole weight of the whole aircraft, I don't really trust my wheels at this stage. I could whack the bungees on. However, I've got 2 washers, one needs to go on each side, so the axle has to come off. I also need to work out the hubcaps. Yeah, I've got the spun aluminium wheel covers that are going to go on, even though I love the spokes, but these will be covered up if you're not aware of that. And also, I need to make some brakes. So basically the axle's going to come off. So there's no use doing the bungee at the moment. I did have a tie down strap on there and it's actually dug into my cricket stump there. So for now, that's as good as it gets. Purely because that middle axle, or the axle, is going to come out. I probably need to clean up my bushings down here, not just cosmetically. The bushings themselves work. And might be a trip to the motorbike shop I just don't know how I'm going to get the disc on the wheel perfect. That's a lathe job, I believe, or someone with better tooling than what I'm using, a DeWalt hand drill. And then obviously a tab to hold the caliper onto, and then the distance. I know you can use spacers, but anyway, that's the reason for the undercarriage being the way it is, looking pretty sad. It'll also raise this beast up a bit. It is pretty high. Here's a picture of good old Charlie Chaplin. And notice they got squadron markings on the aircraft as well. I think in here I've got some good, there he is. See Charlie Chaplin on the wood there. And just extra bits and pieces. I noticed with the Aussie Sopwith Camels, there's boomerangs. They're sort of poorly designed or drawn, or to me they're sad looking emus and kangaroos. Obviously the Apple Mac computer in 1916, you reckon they could have just printed something out, couldn't you? Or ask Siri or something. Right, so I think that was it for the colour schemes in there. One of the gentlemen on the airfield here, he gave me this book. I think his grandfather had something to do with this aircraft. Initially I thought, but I've made my changes. Like I love the fin that I've done. And then in here I've just got other aircraft. Do I put a couple of stripes on the side of the fuselage? I think I'll wait till I put the wings on, and then I can do some squadron markings if I need to. But I'm a big believer in, like, a number 7 is easier than a number 8 if you think about masking it up. Wonga Bonga, now there's a consideration. I never used to like the Wonga Bonga, but it's sort of grown on me a bit. Where would that go? Between the wood and the roundel, Wonga Bonga. I might have to research that and see what the meaning of that is. But it's good fun just toying with ideas. Could go a love heart. This one's in New Zealand. Boxing kangaroo, probably a bit modern. Be pretty cool though, wouldn't it? Snoopy. There's Wonga Bonga again. I guess you got to be prepared for people to, everyone's going to ask what's Wonga Bonga. And here's sort of the one that I've based it on, plain and simple. I did toy with some ideas of some stripes. I can cut some paper and stick on there. This is how I doodle, I guess, and see I've crossed out all the round letters. So an F, H, I, are sort of easy to do. T are relatively easy to do. I think I nutted it down to T, V, L, F and K for masking purposes. But what do they mean to me? Not a great deal. My wife's name is Yolanda, so I could do, I thought about doing YOL, but it's been done. It's in my, it's actually in my photos over here. There's an aircraft that's got a Y on the side. Wonga Bonga, the shine's probably pretty bad here. There it is there. Yeah, see, YOL, YOL, to make my wife happy. But it's already done, taken. So, who knows where I'm going to end up. Might just keep it plain Jane. Okay, it may not look like much, but that's, well, it looks like a lot actually. That's the throttle quadrant. All stripped down, ready to paint. To keep the orientation right, I just did the swirls on the inside. Everything's marked, so it goes back together hopefully. All the metal will be black. I'll stain the wood in the cedar, clear coat, put it back together with all the hardware. Okay, shopping list time. Avionics. I need a battery. So I've got a battery box, which may come in handy to mount to the aircraft. I'll mount the box and put the battery in the box. A master solenoid I do have somewhere. Master solenoid. I'm going to buy a fancy bus bar fuse box like you'd use on a camper van or a boat. I've got two ignition switches, a start switch and toggle switches I need. I'm looking at I've just been on the phone to Rotec. I was actually missing the ignition harness ×2. I think when I picked it up I was actually short the two harnesses. So where do I get to? Yeah, I'll incorporate I think a fuse box and the bus bar all together. Need some toggle switches. Then I've got all my goodies here to go through. This is where I discovered I didn't have a harness for the ignition module and the coil. I have, but no harness. I've got stuff everywhere here. And down here, got all my, you can't have too many crimps. Now there is a difference. If you get these cheap ones, the skirt, the metal doesn't come all the way to the end of the plastic skirt, if that makes sense. Whereas on these guys, you get better contact because the metal's right at the end. You pay a bit more, but they're better. Heaps of those. I've got a little jumper lead for my master solenoid. It looks like I've got a diode ready to go. I'll put clear heat shrink over that. I think that's good to go. I'll test it. My understanding is the current only goes one way. Oh, there's a start switch. However, it's in the box for a reason. I probably decided not to use it last time, but I do have a start switch. It's my wire box. Oh, good. Heaps of 22. This bigger stuff. So it looks like I've got enough wire. Heaps of black. That's good. Plenty of wire. Probably need, well, there's one big guy. So plenty of wire. Plenty of these little rubber caps. Coax cable. You need to get a lot of these connectors for your main terminals, for your batteries. Yeah, so I'm just going to rummage through what I've got and what I need, more to the point. Okay, this was a good little project. All painted up. Probably need to extend those screws to mount it flush on a wall or something. Lean and rich, just a dynamo machine. Made my handles just out of 20 by 12, I think it is, just out of hardwood. Couldn't really hide the screws too well, but it's all right. Yeah, happy with that. It's got a bit of friction, which is what I want, because you know you don't want them to wander, I guess. One throttle quadrant, a couple of days work, looking good. Love it. That'll look nice in the sort of looks, takes second place to functionality, I guess. That'll go over there somewhere. Okay, looks like Christmas here. Just going through all my, just running through in my head. This is the way I sort of do it. I've got an 80 amp shunt here, if you like. Take the load of everything, or excess load. Solenoid. I've gone with this thing. It's a buzz bar fuse box all tied in together. I've written on the back 30 amps each, maximum of 100. Now, quick reference, I don't need a great deal, 5 or 6 ports I guess, but then I've got all the gauges, so I'm not sure. I might run a separate gauge bus bar. We'll see how we go. So for me it's all a visual to get it all sort of in my head. I've got a bunch of questions. I've emailed Rotec to start a bit of an email chain, because I expect to be a few questions, but then I can keep the information rather than just a phone call. And I've got to remember to keep turning off my multimeter. So I find too, multimeter, I use an old RC battery for 12 volts, make up some leads. Alligator clips are real handy, and obviously the test light. And I just use the old beep beep. All I'm looking for is a circuit, basically. What I mean by that is the when you touch them together, it's pretty much all I use. Keep it simple, so I know I've got a circuit. I know the switches work. That's what I did on here, I guess. Although I used the voltage, 0 to 20 volts, just to make sure. I rigged up some alligator clips. The case is the earth, and got this to go click clack. I test everything, even though little leads like this can catch you out. So I just do continuity checks on the multimeter with absolutely everything basically. I ran a voltage through the this little guy, diode. I've hit the pump on the same again, the little RC battery. Hit the pump, it works. Gone through, in my mind, working out how these all connect up and where they connect in, and that's when I discovered I'm short the harness, or 2 ignition harnesses which are getting made up. So I guess the next stage is to pull it apart. But it's Friday and I don't think I'm going to. I like looking at it, so I'll leave it for the weekend. I might make up some boards for the throttle, etc. inside. Probably get them stained up. That'd be a good thing to do, wouldn't it? All right. There's nothing left under the bench. I've just cleaned up, ready to put all the panels under there. I got some spun aluminium wheel covers. Aileron push rods are up here. And electronics and avionics. Wow. Time to tear it apart. Cue the in excess. All right, not quite feeling it today, guys. It's a Friday. I feel like, yeah, I know what I've got to do, but I'm not going to do that just yet. So what I am doing, just having fun, making some rubber back stops, if you like, just out of the scrap bin. I found this rubber under the bench, and these will go on the back there. So we'll do a bit of upholstery. I've got some brown sort of fake leather here, and I'll wrap those up, staple it on the back, and we'll work out how we might just Velcro these to the Vickers. Right, as far as cool toys go, the old pneumatic stapler. It's got to be up there. Kajunka. Right. Now, not being much of an upholsterer, I need to do the old Christmas wrapping corner somehow. So anyway, that's next. I know what you're thinking, but no, you can't feel the staples. Okay. The good old servo screws for the RC modelers out there. They're aggressive enough. I put a plywood board back to cover all the, let's call it leather and staples, just to get it back flat. And now, all going to plan like the other one. this guy just velcros on like that. Now I think there's no way they're going to pull off. Yes, you can take them off, but they're not going to blow off, I don't think. Beautiful. Just looking at those, I need to, when I pull the Vickers out, I'll put some staples into the Velcro that's on the Vickers itself. They're just a little bit, so what I might do is put a sneaky zip tie down through there, out the bottom, through the Vickers, back up, zip tie it, because I don't want those flying into my face. So we've got a solid B+, but we can make it better. Alright, next little job. I'm pretty sure my battery fits in this box. That's like a shipping box, but I'm going to use it once I clean it up. I just got to check the battery actually fits in there. And just back on the cardboard, there's my floor. If I fold that up out of sheet metal, then I'll make the gussets so the rivets won't interfere, if that makes sense. So I have a nice clean inside of the box for the battery to sit in. And this will attach up front to the firewall. The battery's going to sit on the left-hand side. I think what I'll do is put the battery here somewhere, and then I'll put like a breadboard for my Avionics, and another breadboard back here somewhere for the throttle quadrant. Alright, just marking out my battery box, the two side gussets, which are these. I'm marking my folds, and the corner is cut out, and they're in opposites. Also, I need some consideration with this one. I needed to 45 that, because you need to think about, so fold 1, fold 2 on my folder, easy enough. But then you need to get them out of the way, so I've 45'd so that I can then do that fold on my folder. So 1, 2, 3. I'll just mark that on here, because if you were to fold that first, I haven't got a slipper to put in there. Yeah, if I folded that first, I wouldn't be able to use that on my folder. Thinking ahead. Alright, halfway through pulling her down, I think I need to jump in before I pull the dash out. I'm going to stick some gauges on and work out where the throttle quadrant will go, so I can mark things. So in order to do that, I'm trying to simplify as much as I can my instrument panel, and that's basically what I've got it down to. Airspeed, altimeter, RPM, CHT, FAR I'll get to, oil pressure, oil temp. Probably don't necessarily need oil temp, but it's there, I might as well use it. Start button, 2 Maggies, a toggle switch, these represent toggle switches, scavenge oil, fuel pressure, fuel pump, sorry, and master, alternator light, and a skid ball. So I'll stick those on the dash now, just give me some sort of room, which represents that stuff there. Put a few things back in the cupboard. The rest of these items, fuse box, 80 amp breaker, solenoid, and the ignition units will all go on the firewall. Carby's ready to go. I need to take that in the cockpit with me as well. Some tape and a pencil, and I'll meet you in the cockpit. So the FAR, didn't get to, is fuel-air ratio. Now Rotec have sort of told me they wouldn't fly behind a Rotec without, this is where the mixture control comes in and the reading. So for instance, say it's, let's just pick a figure, 12 to 14, I think it's parts per million or something of fuel to air, or air to fuel, whichever way it goes, I don't really know at this stage, but you get a number. So 10 might be way too lean and 18 might be way too rich. He recommends without that, you're sort of just flying by the seat of your pants. So stand by on that one. Okay, welcome aboard my cockpit. So, throttle, got a bit of tape marked there. I just grabbed it and we'll mount that there. And then next up is the dashboard. So, what have we got here? To me, airspeed is king. So, RPM, airspeed is king. This tape represents the metal frame that's behind there. I'm told the ball's only centered when it goes from one side to the other, believe it or not. I was contemplating cutting out the dash, but I don't think I need to. Like an arch on the bottom there. I think I've dropped stuff already. Starter button, Maggie's. So ergonomics comes into this. I need to probably hold the elevator back. Not sure if you can see this. Yes, you can. Probably Maggie's there. But while I'm cranking, if I'm cranking the engine, I like the starter button up out of the way, to be completely honest. Looking at the prop, works on the cruiser. So I might put the starter button up here, and it's out of the way. Starter, looking at the prop, flick the Maggie's, grab the throttle. So Maggie 1 and 2. Alright, so from left to right, the fuel to air ratio is going to be near my mixture control. Master, I just like it there. Maggie's, near the throttle. RPM, near the throttle. Move the throttle, RPM increases. The ball's in the middle. I'm going to try and fly the aircraft straight with my airspeed. Because I'm looking out to land, or looking out to land with my airspeed. Airspeed's king. Altimeter, yeah, sort of along for the ride. Just going to look out the window. Look for koalas. Ball's in the middle. Could still go even lower, probably. That might even balance it up more. I'll do a nice centre line. Altimeter. And then my order, I guess, oil pressure would be very important. CHT, as it was explained to me, there's not much you can do about it. Just watch it rise. So CHT and oil temp. Oil temp's not necessarily required in my case. However, it's got a bung and I've got the gauge and everything for the tank, so I might as well hook it up. I've got no oil cooler and I've got no means of controlling that other than the throttle and airspeed. And the oil temp is taken from the external oil tank, which is just here near my right, down here near my right shin. So oil temp. Altimeter light, sorry, I keep saying that. Alternator warning light is in the dark corner. Scavenge oil pump and my fuel pump. Still not, maybe I should separate those just so I can put the fuel pump near the master maybe, and just keep those as sort of secondary. Might do that so I don't confuse, you could flick on the scavenge pump thinking you got the fuel pump on in the heat of battle. Master, fuel pump. That way, I just like to keep things almost idiot proof. And obviously I need clearance from the side. I think that'll work quite well. Let's lock it in. So the bolt-ons are going back in the rack. Get it? Oh well, working alone again, guys. So final layout on the dashboard I think is pretty close. Umming and ahhing over a voltmeter, but I've got a alternator light. We'll see how we go. Fuel tank is going to come out. I'm going to plumb that up on the bench and put 20 litres or so of fuel in it. And I just park it in the corner for a while, tip it all, so all four corners basically sit overnight, over a period of 4 nights or so. Make sure I get 0 leaks. Because I know if I don't, if I get a leak, I've got to pull this all apart once it's all wired up. So we'll get that done. On the other side, this is what takes a bit of time. So I've got a panel there. I'm not sure if I showed you guys this. It's going to go on there for avionics, bus bar, etc. I'm going to build a tray for my battery. I think I've shown you that. Battery on there, master solenoid, a good earth on the firewall rather than on the wood panels. And then I've got another panel here. So if you can imagine the throttle quadrant will hang off that panel there. So what I'm getting at, what takes the time, I've stained both sides just to make it look pretty. And this little panel, that goes between the Vickers, actually up on top of the dash, just a piece that I'd forgotten. I've made up a little bracket just to collect this bolt here and collect the front of the plywood here. It just gives me a nice mount where I can sort of screw anywhere. I would imagine when the throttle goes on, the cables will be here somewhere, and I can secure the cables to the plywood as well. So then hopefully before I go home today, short day today, I've actually been at school cooking about 300 pancakes for the kids. I'll get some clear coat on those, probably just a single coat will do them. And then we'll get into some rigging of the engine, or wiring up the engine, plumbing. Now Rotex also told me that I need he wouldn't fly behind his engine without a AFR, air fuel ratio gauge. So I'll research that, see what I need. I'm pretty sure I need to get something welded into the exhaust pipe, unless there's already something there that I'm missing. But I don't think so. So looks like a section of the exhaust will come off and we'll go to the welders. Now I've just walked past old mate here and I've noticed I just don't like where the separation is. It's lifted up because it's at 12 o'clock. I can see that. So what I'm going to do is drill out 3 rivets each side and try a piece on the inside, and we'll see what happens. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does, great. These ones seem to be okay, but yeah, just at the top there, it's sort of peaking. I didn't notice it when it was on. Maybe because it's off, it's pulled the skirt of the cowl somehow. A bit of a case of do whatever you have to do. So I've got it flat. Now I'll rivet that again. Hopefully it holds there. So for the sake of 5 minutes work, that's good. Alright, happy with that. It's sitting a lot better. No pucker. These ones may or may not need something in the future. Alright, get on with what I was doing now. Moving on now to my battery box floor, if you like. So I started with the cardboard template, which is this guy. Also lets you get your folds wrong. It doesn't cost you a piece of metal. And this guy. I want the rivets. So I've got no fold on the bottom here. How will this go? This way. So that the rivets are outside the box. So I haven't got rivet heads rubbing into my battery. That's what I'm going with. This will go against the firewall that way. This will go in with a flange against the firewall. May need some more bracing, but I'll sneak up on it. If it wobbles, stiffen it up. Well, I'll try and tell it as it is, guys. I've polished all the edges, did my nice radiuses, folded it. Obviously too tight a radius, because then I snapped it. So because of what it is, I doubt these feel rough, so I think I've cracked those as well. Yeah, I could probably break those off by hand. So, might have to revert back to rivets and L angles, so I can use those side pieces still. May be able to salvage the floor piece, just the rectangle. And we'll deal with the rivet heads when we get to it. Alright, variation number 7. Can't be too strong, I guess, for a battery box. So I'm just slowly riveting something up. I'll countersink the rivets in there so the battery will sit flat on the floor, just the 4 corners. And this will go like that against the firewall with the battery box in there. And then I may run a guy rope piece at the back, or 2 even. We'll just sneak up on this as we go. Row of rivets. I might even potentially, that'll bolt or rivet on there. I might put a backing piece on as well so it doesn't just rip out of the firewall. I received my ignition harnesses, 2 of them, which is great. It's one of the reasons I bought the Rotec. They're just up the road. I think I talked about that probably in this video probably Wednesday. It's now Wednesday week away, another week, and I've got them on my bench already. And then I'll slowly go through what would appear to some to be a relatively simple wiring diagram, but a guy like myself, I struggle to understand Harry Potter sometimes, so I work through that. I just use my 12-volt battery, the light, and multimeter. What I also plan to do, as I add a line, I'll colour it in on here so I know I've got every line. There is some trick you can do with the alternator where you loop a wire back. I got confused, so I'm just going to copy this. Okay, a little job like this doesn't look like much, but it sort of draws on all my little tricks of the trade, if you like. Rivet heads going different directions. I wanted them smooth on the inside and then change direction down there. I got rivets clanging together in the corner, so you got to sort of half pull it, push it in, continue to pull it. Just angles, mark everything, clean everything up. And now I've got a battery box, sort of 80% done. So that's going to rivet somewhere there. This back corner may just get an Adele clamp just to stop it hitting the airframe, and then I'll do a diagonal leg, sort of, well, you can work it out, a diagonal leg down there. I've run out of hands, guys. Also a consideration, I want to put the solenoid above the battery, but you've got to make sure you've got enough room to get the battery out. Also with this one, what I'm going to do, all my leads, I've been caught out before. You get a battery, positive, negative, and if you make the leads, say positive just had to go there, I'm going to make the lead long enough to go to the opposite side. So if I ever buy a different battery, different orientation, different posts, basically, you've got enough room. And it's nice to have just a pigtail anyway, but I'll make sure there's enough room for all the leads to be easy to change. That's how I actually ended up with that battery that's on the floor charging. The posts are in the wrong spots and the lead wouldn't reach. Lesson learned. So I'm just back drilling some L angle to go on the back of the battery support, just so the rivets can't just rip out. Now another consideration, my firewall sort of floats a little bit, so I have to be careful. I could pull it out of rig if you like, and then the cowl won't fit. So I think what I'll do is get the face complete. Before I start securing the back, I'll put the cowl back on to hold the firewall in place. I think that'd be wise. Because it's all integral sort of part. It sort of makes me think now you wouldn't do an engine run without some of these panels on with the battery just flopping around here. Okay, a bit pedantic with the cowl Cow's back on just to prove it fits. I haven't pulled the firewall out of shape with this attachment back here. Got the battery box in. Is it my best work? Don't know. It's functional. I've got that much hardware. I've got Adel clamps. I've got AN3 bolts. I've got the mushroom head screws. I couldn't get the rivet gun in. I wanted to have the rivet heads this side for the battery box to sit against. Somehow I got my math wrong, so I couldn't get the rivet gun in. And then on the other side, the engine mount, with the channel of the L angle and the engine mount, I left like a 20mm slot. That's obviously not big enough to get a rivet gun in either. So I've used up a lot of hardware. I'll show you the other side when I take the cowl off. There's the front side. So my L angle bolts at the top, so the mushroom heads are against the battery, and all the way down there. I had to get one in there because of the angle at the back there. But I've got a home for my battery. 3/4 of a day work, that. It's all in the design. Alright, got my panels painted up. A little bit of, you know, how you going? Do I need to do that? Probably not, but it looks nice. I've got time. So I've just measured down, believe it or not, that is square with the top longeron, which is datum, by the way. Painted my bracket, painted the Adel clamps. This is the non-presentation side. And then that gives me the freedom now. Yeah, now that allows me to incorporate the throttle quadrant on there. Alright guys, from a very hot hangar, I think the GoPro's playing up in the heat. That's where we're up to this week with the Camel. Thanks for watching. Watch along next week. We'll see what we get up to. It's getting interesting.